Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm really glad you're here. My name is Becca and this channel is all about my love for spinning, knitting, weaving, sewing, all the fiber things. I invite you to grab whatever it is you have on the go and join me. Let's make some stuff. Today I have technically three finished objects to share with you, and I'm so excited. The first you may have seen, or I showed in my last video, knitting them outside. These are the tea ceremony socks. They're done! And they turned out even better than I had imagined. The lace panel that winds around to the front of the foot is super cool and just looks really, really awesome. So you see there's a right and a left. And you know, I'm really, really happy with how they turned out. But I suppose, you know, there's always one or two things that are, you know, maybe I could do better in the next one. I really love this twisted rib cuff, but when it stretches around the leg, it shrinks. So there's maybe, an inch to an inch and a half of the ribbing, but when it's stretched, it's about a half inch. And I usually like a little bit more ribbing. So if you do make these socks, you could consider adding a few more rows there. The other thing is something that I have recognized more and more in my knitting. I won't really say that I've struggled with it because it's generally not that big of a deal. But I have noticeably different tension depending on whether I'm knitting in the round, which I did for all of the leg and all of the foot, versus back and forth, knit and purl, which is how the heel flap was done. And I don't know if you can see it, but the tension or the gauge on the heel flap is just a little bit bigger than the rest of the foot. This heel flap I think is more noticeable because it's just stockinette, so knit one round, purl one round. Some heel flaps have more texture in them, so you'll do one row alternating knit and purl, and then purl all the way back, so that you have this extra texture in the heel, which helps it to wear a little bit longer. But I really like how they've turned out. The gussets are super cute. I love a gusset on a foot. This triangle here, I think it just looks super tidy. So yeah, the tea ceremony socks, done. A finished object. Two finished objects. The second finished object is the mango sunrise shawl that I'm wearing. This was the knitting that I was doing in the first video that I put up on YouTube. And if you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen the shawl on the blocking mats. But here it is. I love it so much. I've actually worn it probably 4 times, even though it's super bright and doesn't necessarily match with everything that I wear. But it is very, very light and has this lovely drape to it, and it's big, which means that the fact that it's big and the fact that it's lightweight, it just sits so effortlessly. I don't have to use a shawl pin to hold it on. And you know, I've made some other I've made some other shawls that are maybe a little bit heavier or not quite as large, and I'm always tugging on them and trying to keep them to stay. But this one is just like wearing a cloud. It's like nothing. And if you have seen my first videos, you'll know that I dyed this yarn myself. I dyed the fiber with a hand painting technique with this bright yellow and bright orange, and then I spun it on my Elizabeth II Ashford spinning wheel with a giant 30-inch wheel. And it's 2-ply, thin fingering to lace weight. And that wheel is perfect for spinning lace weight or fingering weight yarns because of the big wheel. It just puts so much twist in, and it's effortless to do it. So I wanted to share with you today some spinning on my Elizabeth wheel. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Ashford Elizabeth wheel. The one that I have with the 30-inch wheel was a special anniversary limited edition that they ran in 2017. The Elizabeth, just the regular Elizabeth, comes with a 24-inch wheel that sits above the table. The 30-inch wheel, to accommodate the larger size, they actually have a cutout in the table that allows the wheel to sit down into. So the larger wheel, it has everything else. I think is pretty much similar to the standard Ashford Elizabeth. It just has this larger wheel. And it's a single treadle Saxony style wheel. It can be set up for either double drive or Scotch tension. I have mine set up to do double drive, which means that you have one continuous loop of your drive band that does a figure 8 and goes around the flyer to spin the flyer, but also on the bobbin as a break, so that you can so that it doesn't all spin at the same speed. The bobbin will spin slightly slower, and then the fiber will wind on, or the thread will wind onto the bobbin. So as I said, I have mine set up for double drive, and it's a bit finicky to set up double drive versus Scotch tension. I'll do another video talking about the differences between them. But today I want to focus on the Ashford Elizabeth and just give you an up-close view of it, show you all the details, and share with you some spinning fine on that wheel. The story of how I got my wheel, I think, is a bit interesting. So this was my local yarn shop. I just stopped in. I wasn't in the market for a new wheel. Of course, when am I ever in the market for a new wheel? But when am I not in the market for a new wheel? So I had gone in. My local yarn shop carries not just yarn, but also lots of spinning and weaving equipment. So they have floor looms. The store is enormous. They have floor looms on display. They have spinning wheels of all varieties on display. And this one caught my eye because it's huge, but also it's just so pretty. I love the beech wood that it's made of, this light colored wood that has a clear coat finish, so it just shows off the beauty of the wood. And Saxony wheels are just, they're fairy tales, so I love them. Anyway, so this wheel was on display, and apparently it had been on display for quite some time. They'd had it for quite some time because they were trying to move it out of stock, and they only had the one in stock. Again, this was a limited edition. It's a little bit more expensive. Well, it was quite a bit more expensive than some of the other ones that they have, but the wheel, like I said, they must have had it in stock for a while because they had marked it down. And so we have a limited edition wheel that's on sale, and I asked if I could spin on it and try it out. And as I was trying it out, there was already quite a bit of yarn on the bobbin, so lots of people had tried it. But I was chatting with the salesperson, and they were telling me that most of the people who had tried it out didn't like it. And I said, oh, why is that? Because here I am spinning on this thing, and it's just buttery and smooth, and it's got these ball bearings in the wheel, so it spins really easily. And I couldn't tell why people wouldn't like it. And apparently they said it was too fast. And they felt like the yarn was getting away from them, and they just didn't like it. It was, I don't know, too aggressive. But as I was thinking about it more, I think because you have a really big wheel, you don't have to treadle as fast to get it to go around and put the twist in. So if you are used to spinning on a double treadle wheel or a smaller wheel, and you've gotten used to a particular spinning at a particular rhythm, you know, some people, they treadle really fast and they move their feet really fast. And I guess I don't. I don't know what's different exactly with the way I spin versus how other people spin. But you treadle really slowly to get that big wheel to go around. Because, of course, the treadle is connected from the footman to the wheel. And so every time you press down the treadle, and it comes back up, that makes a full rotation of the wheel. So if you've got a big wheel, then you obviously have a lot of distance feeding into your bobbin. So you treadle slower, and I'll show you that in action so you can see just how slowly I treadle with this wheel. Which to me is perfect because that's the mechanical advantage. That means that you, as a person, don't have to be doing so much work. The machine is doing the work for you. So I love it. I think it's fantastic. My wheel was made in 2017 as part of the special anniversary edition up from Ashford. As I was researching this video and the details about the wheel, I saw on Ashford's website that they are doing another special run in 2022, limited edition run of the 30-inch wheel. So if you're interested in this wheel, it might be a little bit easier for you to get one from Ashford or from your local yarn shop or from wherever you can get wheels. This wheel is especially good for spinning fine yarn, and I've spun some other yarn besides the Mango Sunrise. This first one is Malabrigo Nube Merino roving is what I spun. This is 100% merino, and I spun this on the Elizabeth in this lace weight. I tried to spin as fine as I could, and I'll show you some close-ups of this yarn so you can see it. The color shifting is just gorgeous. It's teals and blues and greens, and I think there's a little bit of black or navy in there as well. But I had 8 ounces of this, which was 2 4-ounce rovings, and I plan to make a shawl with this, a lace shawl. But yes, this is a Malabrigo Nube roving, hand-dyed, 100% pure merino wool made in Uruguay. Another wool that I spun into yarn was this. I don't have the fiber anymore because I spun it, but this is Frabjous Fibers Organic Polworth Wool Top. This is the color number 570 in Cactus, and this was a 4 ounce, yes, 4 ounces hand dyed in Vermont, 4-ounce braid of Polworth wool. This was the first time I spun this breed. It's really nice and soft and squishy, but I wanted to keep these beautiful colors separate, and so I spun this as a chain ply, 3-ply yarn. So you spin the singles, and then in order to keep all the colors together, you essentially loop the single thread back onto itself. So you have one coming in and then a loop pulled back, so you end up with 3 plies that each you ply together, because I wanted to make self-striping socks. And this was my first attempt doing self-striping socks or sock yarn. It's a little bit thick and thin, not super consistent, but I think it turned out really nicely. Again, this is 100% Polworth, so there's no nylon in it, and I can't tell you how many times I've worn the socks. I've made these a little while ago, a couple of years ago maybe, but they're in need of a mend. So here they are. And you can see that as I've washed them and worn them, the colors have faded just a little bit. But I think they turned out really great with the color shift. You know, with the greens and the browns in there, and then the blue and red. I really didn't want to just have it barber pole, you know, just kind of all together. I didn't want it to be muddled because I knew it would be very, very muddy. But I think I really like the way it shifts, and there's a little bit of, I guess, fading from one color to the next, where the colors change. But yeah, so these are cactus from Frabjous fibers that I did as self-striping for the first time. And this was spun on the Elizabeth. So the yarn itself, again, I'll show you up close, is 3-ply, but still fingering weight. Mostly fingering weight. There's some thicker stuff here. So each of those singles is really fine. And when I show you up close, you'll be able to see that. So those are some of the other yarns that I've spun on this wheel. And again, I waffled whether I would buy it, will I, won't I. I think we might have even left the shop and walked down the street a ways and went into another shop and then came back. But ultimately she came home with me, and I'm so glad that she did, because I love this wheel. I think it's just a fine day for spinning fine, so let's do some spinning. The fiber that I have is from Carr Park Artisans on Etsy, and this color is called Gryphon. It is a blend of wool and Tussah silk, and it just has this lovely gradient or blend, I suppose, of yellows and browns and white and shimmery white. The silk gives it this lovely shimmer. So to me, it looks like one of my absolute favorite semi-precious stones, Tiger's Eye. I see where the color name Gryphon comes from, but to me this is Tiger's Eye, and I am so excited to spin this on the Elizabeth, to spin it into a lace weight for a shawl, because I think it's going to be just beautiful. So let's do some spinning. that's it for this video. Thank you so much for spending some of your creative time with me. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!